Meanwhile, the case against Trump's big lie is expanding well outside of the committee. Today, a prominent group of conservatives, including lawyers and judges, issued a detailed report showing that there is absolutely no evidence of widespread fraud in the 2020 election. The question remains, will their conservative peers finally listen? Joining me now is David Hoppe, former chief of staff to Speaker Paul Ryan, and one of the authors of the aforementioned report, Lost Not Stolen, the conservative case that Trump lost and Biden won the 2020 presidential election. And Abdallah Fayyad, opinion writer for the Boston Globe. Thank you both for being here. Mr. Hoppe, thank you for being here. I got to ask you this sort of baseline question. It's a two-part question. Part one. What does it mean that in the year of our Lord, 2022, you have to write a detailed report explaining that a person who lost by like 8 million votes actually lost? How bad does that mean that it's gotten inside of the Republican Party? And why do you think that the people who are MAGA at this stage would listen to the Ryan wing of the party? The Paul Ryan wing of the party is what they basically erased.
Well, one of the things I think you have to look at on this is that this report was looking at every bit of evidence we could find in 6 specific states and looking at the cases they were brought, how they were argued, what was determined by the court or determined in some cases by state legislatures or others. And what it says is that this election was not stolen. And it's an important point to make because if we're going to have faith in our democracy, people have to know that elections have real consequences and they are honestly determined. This one was. Mr. Trump, just as he won the 2016 election against some great odds, was not reelected in 2020. And once again, the pandemic and some other issues had to do with that. But this election, and it's important for the people of the United States to know and believe that their elections are honest, and that a winner is a winner and a loser is a loser, and nobody steals elections. And that's what we did the report for. It is to lay out these arguments. And we didn't think that anybody had done it before in the way that particularly the judges who were involved here and other lawyers who were involved here, I'm not a lawyer, but I was a participant in this, felt would make the case and the argument so that people could decide for themselves. And there are still people who have not looked at all of the evidence. It hasn't been put all in one place like we have put it in this report. So we believe that the people will get a chance to look and read this and find out how the arguments were made, but that in the end, President Biden was elected president by winning enough states and enough electoral votes to be elected president. It was not stolen.
So, Abdallah Fayyad, I'm going to ask you this question, then I will have another question for Mr. Hoppe. He knows that. You know that. I know that. Mitch McConnell knows that because he congratulated Joe Biden on December 15th, the day after the Electoral College certified that he is president and confirmed it. The challenge is that the people who are hardcore MAGA are not going to read this report. They literally get their information off TikTok, Fox News, Newsmax, and OANN. And the kind of Republican that Mr. Hoppe is, you know, as delightful of a person as he probably is not the kind of Republican that they see as a rhino and that Eric Greitens does ads against, right? So it's like, I wonder, you're covering these hearings as I am. You, of course, probably understand that most of the people who testified in these hearings are committed to voting for Donald Trump again, even though their families are being threatened. They're getting death threats. They're saying, yeah, but I'd vote for him again. Do you see anything about what we've seen in these hearings that indicates to you that there can be any change in the Republican base based on a report like this?
Well, thanks, George.
And this is for Mr. Fayyad.
This is for Mr. report this evening. So it is being covered.
But wait, this is for Mr. Fayyad.
Republicans who are MAGA and other Republicans will see it. And maybe they haven't heard this amount of evidence put together. But one of the other things you have to understand is that there are people who are loyal to President Trump because he's the first one who put a voice to their feelings of being shunned, called deplorables. And those are things that once somebody put a voice to it, people feel loyal to him. They also liked the policies that he put together and passed and brought on his first.
Okay, well, give me 1 second. Give me hold. Pause. I don't know if you can hear me.
Those are things that make people loyal. Those are things that make people loyal.
I hear you, but I want to let Mr. Fayyad respond to you first, and then I'll come back to you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Joy. Thanks for having me on. And, that's a really great question. And, it's really difficult to know what these Republicans are thinking in particular. I mean, I just can't put myself in these people's heads and understand how they are fully incapable of feeling shame. These are people who, like you mentioned, expressed regret and felt guilty about helping Trump win, but they won't try to actually redeem themselves in public. But this is a reality and a pattern that has existed since Trump first announced his candidacy in 2016, and it could not have been more crystallized than when a senator from his own party who voted to convict him for inciting an insurrection went ahead and said that she's open to supporting him should he run for president in 2024. This is really scary stuff. This is a guy who they now know tried to overthrow the U.S. government. Let's be clear about that, what that means. That means he literally tried to end American democracy, literally. And they're just sitting there thinking, I'm not sure whether or not I'm going to support him in 2024. Are you really not sure? But this all shows, like you said, just how unwilling the Republican Party has been to finally leave Donald Trump behind. And there are a lot of reasons for that. One is the culture of fear and retaliation that he has created in the GOP, just like any strongman's party in any autocracy. But I think one of the biggest reasons is because Donald Trump actually delivered the agenda that the conservative movement has been working toward for generations. And, at the end of the day, that agenda may have looked a little uglier than some conservatives may have wanted. And so now some people are jumping ship. But, it's great when people stand up and stand up to him and call him out. But, at this point, it's too little too late.
And I have to ask you this, Mr. Hoppe. We're close to out of time. First of all, very quick answer because we're short on time. Would you vote for Donald Trump again if he ran?
He's not my candidate in 2024.
Okay.
But there are the policies that he had. I will vote for.
Can you tell me what? Wait, hold on a second, sir. I need you to listen to me and have a conversation. What policies? Very quickly, list them. List these policies. I hear people say this a lot. What policies specifically?
Well, the tax cuts and the effect they had of having more blacks and more Hispanics.
Don't bring my folks into this. Don't bring my folks into this.
United States.
These tax cuts much different.
His appointment of judges to the Supreme Court. He said
ending Roe v. Wade.
He said he would appoint textualists. He did. Those three. They're Scalia-like. And that's what he said.
They want to end Roe v. Wade. Okay, so
the change in China. Every president said before his time over the last 50 years, I'll be tough with China. None of them did. Donald Trump was the first one to hang to bell the cat, if you will, on China and talk about what they were. These are things that are important in the future of the world. He started to rebuild our defenses.
I got to let our other guests in. 1 second.
Yes,
okay, 1 second.
Low and the weapons
I got you. I'm so glad you said that, sir. Hold on. I'm so glad that you said that because you did work for Paul Ryan. And Paul Ryan's life dream was to pass a massive tax cut for the super rich. And Trump did that. Trump signed a massive tax cut that benefited rich people.
That
was the goal. Can I just get you to comment on this, Mr. Fayyad? Wait, hold on. Because Mr.
Opportunity and honor to work for Jack Kemp.
I hear you.
You'll never get.
I hear you.
That higher taxes are the way to solve our problems.
Okay, let me let Mr. Fayyad in. 1 second, Mr. Fayyad. I'm just going to talk to you now because I don't think our other guest is listening to me.
Horrible for our economy.
Would you agree that in the end, because I always tell people this all the time, the two things Donald Trump actually really did accomplish legislatively was that massive tax cut and putting those people on the Supreme Court. And that the reason that every single person who testified in these hearings would vote for him again is that he was the means to that end, so they don't care what else he did.
I think that's exactly right.
It's already mentioned.
Abdallah, yes, please. Mr. Abdallah.
I think that's exactly right. And, Trump delivered that agenda, like I mentioned earlier. The conservative movement has been working toward this for really generations, and now Roe v. Wade has been overturned.
Correct.
And that was a cause for celebration for this party. And they have finally reached this point, and Donald Trump was the one to deliver that. And, he has made it possible for the Republican Party, and this is essential. I mean, he made it possible for the Republican Party to continue governing through a minority coalition.
That's right.
And now they are attacking voting rights in order to maintain that strength. They're attacking democracy, and he was the vehicle through which they did that. And so that's why it's really difficult for them to leave them, to jump off this path at this stage. It's just their path to holding power, and they don't want to abide by the rules of democracy and the rules of elections and catering to the electorate that they serve.
Trump freed Republicans from having to pretend they cared about the Voting Rights Act. He gave them the massive tax cut for the super rich that they always wanted, and the judges on the court that would get rid of Roe v. Wade. Those were their three items. They don't care if he was the devil himself, and they'll all vote for him again. This was so revelatory. Thank you both for being here. David Hoppe, Abdallah Fayyad, thank you very much.